My opinion is that entrepreneurship is in some ways inevitably challenging. And we disagree at times about what effort is necessary and what isn't. And I think what you're really good at and that what you really help me do is challenge whether something has to be true. But you and I have built two very different businesses. With that, a lot of challenges. And I know that those challenges have come at a cost for our family. I do come home at the end of the
Right.
day, oftentimes frustrated or disappointed. And that has absolutely taken a toll on our marriage. It's absolutely come at a cost. Man, I'm excited about today. Okay. Today, I have our first guest on the Better Way to Build podcast. Actually, we're going to be doing a collaborative episode here on the Graham Cochrane Show and Better Way to Build podcast. I've brought my sweet husband, Graham Cochrane, onto the show to have a really vulnerable conversation about the real hidden cost of entrepreneurship. If you follow the Better Way to Build podcast, then you know that in the last episode, we really kind of cracked open this conversation on the costs of entrepreneurship that aren't being talked about and the benefits of entrepreneurship that aren't being enjoyed. And so my promise in that episode was that I wanted to bring Graham on here and just engage a very real conversation about the costs of entrepreneurship in the Cochrane house, because there have been many. There have been many benefits and there have been many, many costs, but I'm really excited, babe, to have you on today. Thanks for setting aside time to do this so we could kind of collaborate on this conversation.
Yeah, man. You know what? I'm just happy that I'm guest number one because I feel like I won an award. So I'm happy with that. I don't even care what we talk about. Just happy to be here. But yes, this is an important conversation. And I think we have a unique perspective on it because we're both entrepreneurs and we both run different businesses as opposed to working together in the same business. So I know a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of entrepreneur couples, and I don't know very many that have our unique situation. So I think we'll have some flavor to add to the mix.
It's a little
Yeah,
spice to sprinkle in.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. All right. So for those that aren't as familiar with our story, I want to give you just like a very brief 30,000-foot view of kind of what entrepreneurship has looked like in our home. I very proudly like to claim that I was an entrepreneur long before Graham was. I was hustling friendship bracelets on the playground at age 4. That is the start of my entrepreneurial journey. So when Graham married me, he married an entrepreneur. And I just want to state for the record, that was your choice, babe. No takebacks.
Well,
That
we're coming out
conversation will
swinging.
come up.
Okay,
That
are
conversation
we
will come
getting
up again
passive?
later. But
We getting passive aggressive already? Let's go.
it's
All
going to
right,
be a
I'm ready.
spicy episode. It is. I've been waiting 20 years to have this conversation with you publicly.
Man, I'm
Um,
sweating
so
already.
he married into entrepreneurship. And then within a few years of getting married, Graham found himself an unlikely and a bit unwilling entrepreneur who has gone on to have incredible success across a number of different businesses, originally starting in the recording industry, now as an author, speaker, business coach. The important highlight there being that we've never, like Graham said, we've never worked in business together. And so that does produce a unique set of circumstances that have been challenging for us to navigate because we're not working on the same thing together. We both have our own different stressors, different ambitions, different desires, different ways that we go about building business. And that's just been unique, right? Not necessarily a problem, just been unique. But either way, we have been neck deep in entrepreneurship for at least the last 17 or 18 years, doing and building our own thing, with some overlap in that we understand each other, but then a lot of things that don't necessarily overlap. So that's kind of where we start this conversation, is longtime entrepreneurs. And the thing that I want to kind of talk about at first is, let's just start with the benefits of entrepreneurship. And the reason why I think it's interesting to have a conversation about the benefits of entrepreneurship are that most people aren't actually enjoying them. They're not actually getting to benefit from them. So in the last Better Way to Build episode, I kind of highlighted what I felt like were some of the benefits that we've enjoyed. But I want to hear from you about, you're looking back at the last 17, 18 years of entrepreneurship for our family, really the last 10 years of entrepreneurship that have seen a lot of success, and with it, its own unique challenges. But what do you think are the biggest benefits of entrepreneurship that we have really, truly been able to enjoy?
Yeah, this is so fascinating to me because as a business coach, one of the angles that I'm taking in my messaging and my brand is helping people build their businesses, but also get back their time freedom. So I'll say it in a bunch of different ways. I help entrepreneurs create more money, more margin, and more meaning. And that's usually the order in which people look for things in business. They start business because they need to make more money, because that's one of the benefits I'm sure you alluded to in the last episode of like, there's no cap to your income. And then they typically realize, oh, I'm making money, but I'm burning out. I would love to have more margin in my schedule, more time. How can I do that? And then once they have time, they realize I don't have a whole lot of purpose in what I'm doing. I have a good business, but like it doesn't fulfill me. It doesn't feel like it's aligned with my personal mission. And that's where the meaning piece comes in. And so I try to help people do that. But it is bonkers to me that I get pushback on like, why are you talking about working so less? Like, are you lazy? Like it's like the idea that real entrepreneurs are working around the clock. And the reason why people think that is twofold. If they live in America or they live in the West, that's kind of the culture we've grown up in, which is we are obsessed about working and obsessed with working, and it's almost like a badge of honor how many hours we work. And like all of our heroes brag about how much they work. Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, soon to be ex-CEO of Apple, talks about and brags about how many hours he works, how early he wakes up, how late he goes to bed working. Elon Musk says, I never sleep, like just work around the clock. You know, I won't name more and more gurus in my space, but like the typical gurus say you need to work all the time, and work-life balance is a myth and you should ignore it largely, especially in your 20s. So you should just work to build the thing. Like all of this is really bad advice, but because it's literally missing the point of business building. The point of business building is not to make a lot of money. That is a benefit of business building, but that's not the point. Typically, you got into business because you wanted more time freedom and flexibility, or you wanted more alignment with your mission. Like you were doing work and getting paid well, but you're like, what's the point of my job? What's the point of this company? I want to do something meaningful. There's usually a lot of other reasons. And for whatever reason, once we start building, we just get so myopic on the money that people miss out, to your point, on the benefit of like working less. So to me, this has never made sense, because I think for our family, what the benefit of the entrepreneurship looks like for you and I is we only work a handful of hours a week so that we can take our daughters to school every morning. We can pick them up from school every afternoon. We can have date day on Fridays. And now we're adding Mondays as another date day. So we can have the weekends together as a family. So we can have dinner at the table most nights, unless the only reason we wouldn't have dinner together as a family is because the girls have a soccer game or like it's usually their fault now. It's not our fault anymore. Like we're around the table together because that's where discipleship and that's where mentorship and family happens, is around the dinner table.
I think about
All
you
these things.
reading with Vera. You're reading through, just finished up the Harry Potter series. You're getting ready to start Lord of the Rings. When most entrepreneurs are, maybe they're dialing in for dinner with the family, but then they have to go back to work, right? They're going up, they're slinking off into the bedroom with their laptop to just kind of take care of a few more things
Oh, I
after
hate
dinner.
that bonus shift after dinner.
That bonus
That's from
shift.
the devil. That's from the devil. If you're working after dinner, something's not working in your business. So we got to
Right.
figure this out. So yeah, that's a great point, because those hours are precious, right? If let's say your kids go to school, and even if you're home when they're home, like between the hours of 3:30, 4, whenever everyone's home, to 9:30, 10, like those 5 to 6 hours that's your life with your
Yeah,
kids. That's it. So
that's it.
and like, let's not, again, this is what's great about this episode is we're gonna be real honest. This is not rosy, like for us. Like one of I literally bought a phone lockbox. So because as if I'm a
It kind of
child where
looks
I
like
have
a
to
phone
lock.
coffin in our guest
It looks
room.
like a coffin for your phone. You get it on Amazon, you put it in, you press lock for how many hours, and you can't unlock it for
Yeah.
those 3 hours or 4 hours. And I got it because even if I hide it behind the cookbooks in the kitchen, like I'll go grab it just to see if I don't know, see if something important happened.
If anything
Not, by the way,
amazing
nothing
happened.
important happened. But so I can miss out and have missed out on the time where like, oh, if it looks like Vera is on the computer doing something and you're doing something, if no one's just chilling, I'll be like, well, I'll grab my phone. And then it becomes together time. And I'm realizing, but if I do that, then if she's done and looks up at dad and dad's on his phone, then she'll go back to her laptop. So I'm actually perpetuating the problem. So I'm not saying it's perfect, but that's your magical window from 4 to 10 or whatever it is in the evenings. And so I'm trying to even lock my phone away. So I have nothing to do but sit there and be like, hey, Vera, do you want to play Nintendo? Do you want to read Harry Potter? Hey, Chloe, do you want to catch up on your day? Like, and it's awkward, but that's where real life is happening.
Yeah. Do you have other favorite benefits looking back on our entrepreneurial journey? Like, are there other moments that you're especially proud of? We've talked about,
Things like,
intentionality as a family, time with the kids, but like, what are the other highlights for you?
well, yeah, one of our goals was to go live in another country for a month. And so a few years back, we took the girls to the south of France and we lived in Provence for a month. And they hated it at the time. They say they love it now, but they hated it
They
at the time.
literally said, never make us do that again.
Yeah. They were so bored. There's no toys, there's no friends. But it was amazing. And it was awkward. And like, we had our, adventure moments where things didn't work out. And like, but we proved to ourselves that we could sit together as a family in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't like a big city, in the middle of nowhere for a month, which has got its pros and cons, but like it forces connection. And two, that the businesses, this was for both of us, like we wanted to prove to ourselves that the businesses don't catch on fire completely while we're gone. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest articles I ever read by Tim Ferriss was The Art of Letting Bad Things Happen. And he talks about going on because he does these long trips. He'll be gone for 3 or 4 months. And knowing that his business would have a bunch of problems when he came back. And he came back to a massive client, fired him. There was some tax issue. There's some things. But as he sifted through them, a couple of fines, like he just had to pay a few bucks, like nothing was irreversible. And he said that did more good for his soul than anything else because he realized I can let bad things happen and it doesn't ruin things. So now he was free to go take more trips. And so that was one for us that I think was a big, like, wow, we can take a 3, 4, 5 week trip and everything's fine.
Well, it forces you to remove yourself as the bottleneck in the business. It just forces you to build it smarter. Even the
Yep.
idea of taking 2 weeks off forces you to build in a way that allows for you to do that and 80% of things not fall apart. I mean, you have
A
an
hundred
interesting
percent.
lesson that you learned recently about where a better system was needed and it had
Oh, yeah.
a $25,000 cost to it.
That's a good one. So
Yeah.
we went on a cruise during spring break, and for one of the worst things that was ever invented was internet on a cruise ship. The cruise ship used to be the last place on the world that you could get away with, hey, you can't, my phone doesn't work, can't catch up with anything. Well, now they have internet on the cruise ship and people are freaking obsessed with internet on the cruise ship. What are we doing, people? You don't need internet on the cruise ship. It'll be there when you get back. It'll be there when you get back. But I turn my phone off. I don't use the internet when I'm on the cruise. I don't have my laptop with me. I'm gone for the week. And unfortunately, I had a client who put down her deposit for a $27,000 coaching program I have. And so she just needed to get her remaining $25,000 in. And she had a week and a half to get it in while I was here. And she kind of disappeared. But then the day we left, I guess I found out a week later, was the day she emailed in. She had a question about something that she was unclear about. And nobody responded to her for a week. I had told my assistant to just ignore the inbox for a week. And she wouldn't even know what to do anyway, because I hadn't empowered her to do what she needed to do. So when I got back a week later, there was multiple emails like, hey, I'm not hearing from anybody. I don't feel very comfortable
Scammer.
investing my remaining $25,000. If you can't email me back in a week, I'd like my $2,000 deposit back, even though it was non-refundable. And I was like, oh, crap. Yeah.
I need a better
I guess
system.
I need a better system for when I go dark for 7 days. So yeah, I lost 25 grand because of my system. But guess what? Now I've hired a client concierge who handles all of the onboarding for all. I don't even do the onboarding for my clients anymore, so that when I'm gone or even if I'm here, she's the one getting their wire transfer in and answering her questions about the program. So
Yeah.
I learned a valuable lesson. Just cost
Lesson
me
learned.
25K.
Lesson learned. And it has, I think, for both of us, because we both work. I mean, I was in the other episode, I was talking about how we've taken the chance to set up a different schedule for summer, right? Like, what a gift to be able to say, like, hey, how much do you want to work this summer? Okay, how about 2 days? I'll take these 2 days, you take these 2 days. Let's just have fun the rest of the days, because our summers with the girls at home are ticking down and we're the boss. So we get to decide how we want this to look. And so we're taking advantage of that and building businesses in that way. Yeah, I think that's definitely a benefit. Any other, before we move on to kind of more of the costs, any other just like real highlights for you in how we've done entrepreneurship?
Well, to me, having a very high margin, low expense business is always a goal for me because I don't want just a high revenue business. Part of me, if I'm being honest, does because the ego would be really nice to say, "Oh, I have a $20 million year business," but I know people that do 20 to $100 million a year, but their take home is closer to 1 million, right? So
Yeah,
what's
right.
it's your profit or your personal take home are very different than the revenue numbers. So I've optimized for a simpler business where I'm not going to have as big revenue numbers because I'm not going to have a sales team. I'm not going to be doing a ton in ads. So it is what it is. But the benefit of having high profit, like most dollars I make in the business, we get to keep. The benefit of that and keeping your expenses relatively low, they're not low by probably most people's standards. We live a great life, but they're relatively low to our income where we're spending maybe 10% of what we're making. The last I checked is that you have all this extra money that you don't need. And when you have all this extra money you don't need, well, there's a lot of cool things you get to do. And you've probably talked about this, but you and I have a big heart for generosity. And everybody, I think, loves to give. Like it's fun to, the feeling you get when you see someone at the grocery store who is their card's getting declined and they can't pay for the groceries. And you're like, I'll just pay for your groceries, which most any of us could pay the $50 or $100. Times that by the being able to we've paid off people's student loans. We've bought people cars. We've helped fund adoptions. Like this stuff is crazy when you think about it, and it's so fun. I've had friends who send me a link for a GoFundMe for someone who just lost their spouse and they're just trying to raise money to support the spouse. I don't even know this person, but because my friend told me about it, I'll just drop $10,000 to this GoFundMe and I'm an
You're about to
anonymous,
get so
like, won't
many
even know.
emails. By saying this, you're about to get flooded with emails with
Oh yeah, no
GoFundMe
guarantees. I'm not
pages.
gonna fund your thing just because, but you know what I'm saying? Like you can't, because you can do this stuff that
Yeah.
if you see something that means something to you,
Yeah.
you're not like, "Oh, I would love to give," because I even know entrepreneurs who make a lot of money, but they can't really give, and I'm like, "Why? You bring in millions of dollars. Where is it going?"
Or
"Well, I have a team. I
they're
got this."
super financially stressed. We know a lot of
Yes.
high net worth, high net worth that are super financially stressed.
Yeah, and that doesn't, if you run your business the right way, you get to control that. So I think that's one of the last benefits is there's so much excess profit that you can invest it, you can spend it, you can pay off debt, you can give it away, and it just feels like, well, next month there's going to be more extra sitting there. What do we want to do with it? And there's nothing like that feeling.
Yeah. And the key there is, and you mentioned this, like it's our choice to live well below our means because lifestyle creep is a very real thing. So
Oh
for
yeah.
the average person, the more they make, the more they're spending, and they never actually get to that point of feeling like there is financial margin because everything's just gone up. They're just living bigger. And so I think, that the linchpin there for us has been just a decision since very early on to live well below what we're bringing in. Yeah, those are great benefits. Okay, let's transition now and talk a little bit more about the dark side, the cost of entrepreneurship. I know, we had a pretty heated conversation a few weeks ago where I was saying, and I don't know if this was entirely a fair statement, but I was saying, when I look back on these 10 years, these past 10 years of entrepreneurship, which, mind you, have been some of the most financially successful of our lives, right? And of our marriage. We've been married for 20 years. The last 10 years represents the most, so far, financially successful, lucrative years of our life. We're both doing work that we really love and feels really aligned for us. And yet, what I communicated um, was that I think I'm going to look back on these 10 years as a loss when I look back on these 10 years. And that might not be an entirely fair statement, right? That might have been some emotion speaking, but the feeling is pointing to something real, which is that we have sort of a before and after in our marriage in that we didn't start out both as full-time entrepreneurs. We had normal jobs that barely paid very much, but it was enough to live off of. We lived a very modest, simple life, right? Finances were simple, calendars were simple. There was no such thing as a travel schedule unless you and I were just going to visit the parents or that kind of thing. Money was simple. The use of our time was simple. How we looked at ambition and what we wanted out of life. We didn't have arguments over ambition back then, right? It was a very different, very sweet, simple period of time of marriage for us, looking back on those early years. And now life is very different, right? We're a long way away from East Market Street, where we used to live in that tiny little upstairs apartment. Um, Sitting out in our driveway because we didn't have a lawn, or a backyard to sit in. So we just sit out on the side of this like major highway and watch semi tractor
Yeah.
trailers go by. And we loved it. There are three basic things that are absolutely critical to business growth if you're a Christian entrepreneur. Number one, you need the mentorship of high caliber women who are ahead of you in business. Number two, you need mastermind level collaboration, strategic collaboration with other ambitious, values aligned peers. And you need the truth and the strategies and the spirit led insights that God has for you. If you don't have these three things in place, I just want to invite you to check out Illume Network. Illume is a faith-based entrepreneurial network for 6, 7, and 8-figure Christian female entrepreneurs who are looking for that kind of high-level mentorship, strategic collaboration with peers, and kingdom business strategy to guide their business growth. If you are building something meaningful and you're done doing it alone, I hope that you'll head to illumenetwork.com to learn more and consider applying, because this is the room that you have been looking for, and I would love to see you there. All right, when you look back on the last, let's say, especially the last 10 years of entrepreneurship, what do you feel like some of the most poignant costs have been for us?
Yeah, I think we've lost contentment. We've lost connection, like you and I. Um, it's cost us peace, joy at times, confidence at times. And I think like when I when I started my first business, I wasn't trying to start a business. It was just we needed to make money and
Just broke.
just broke. You
Yeah.
just try to do something. And we had this sense that the Lord was saying, yeah, like go for this. Try this entrepreneurship thing out in the music space. And so it was just a thread we were just pulling and I was sharing on my podcast a week or two ago that I worked full time in the business for the first year and made $10,000. So it wasn't like it popped off anytime soon. But there was a thread that as you kept pulling it out, you could see, man, people are resonating with this. There's something here. And so when that's your mindset, you're not dreaming big. And so you're just like over the moon when it makes $60,000. When it crossed into six figures, I'm like, bro, we're kings. We're gonna live like kings. This is amazing. And it wasn't until I started to get more coaching and join more masterminds and read more books. And you start to see, like, as a human being, see what's next. And this is the greatest thing and the worst thing about being a human is God designed us to be kings over an assignment. Little K kings. He's the king of kings, right? And so we're little kings because he tells us in Genesis to the first command in all of Scripture, like not the commandments, but the first thing he ever commands a human to do is to be fruitful, multiply, have dominion, subdue the earth. So this is all kingship, like
It's
God
expansive
built everything.
language.
It is like go expand. And so that's the way we're designed. So the fact that I learned to dream bigger, oh, this could be bigger. I could reach more people. I could do bigger things. Same thing with you is a God-given and good thing. And then the shadow side of it is, well, man, now that I know it's possible, it doesn't matter how great my business is. It's not that, or it's not what he's doing or what she's doing. And I struggle with this. And so I'm a person that gets in my head. And so that costs us connection when you see me like just like thinking or fuming, or I can't be super present, even though I'm there. I can't be super present because I'm disappointed in whatever, a specific promotion or just the way the last 6 months have gone, given what my timeline would look like. And I know the right things to say and do and wrestle. I wrestle with this with the Lord, but it really cost me a lot of being present, and so that affects our marriage, and that affects the quality of our connection. So we could go on date night every week, but there can be some date nights where I'm like there but not there, and so that's a cost for real.
Yeah. I think of, yeah, and we have we have slightly different opinions about this. My opinion is that entrepreneurship is in some ways inevitably challenging, right? It's going to inevitably have challenges to it. Now, you wrote a book called The Effortless Business. And so I'm married to the guy who's like the effortless business guy. My reality of entrepreneurship has not been that it has been effortless. It has been very effortful. And, we disagree at times about what effort is necessary and what isn't, and what challenges are necessary and what challenges aren't. I think what you're really good at, and that what you really help me do, is challenge whether something has to be true, right? Like, does it have to be that way? Does it have to be that hard? Do you have to build it in that way? You are a great, not to drop the name of your other book, but you're an excellent rebel at what needs to be done or does not need to be done in business. But you and I have built two very different businesses, right? I've always needed to have a team. So there's always been a layer of leadership, people leadership that's been involved in what I've built. You are the talking head of your business, content-based business. It's you. It's very streamlined. I haven't wanted to be the center of my business. And so mine have been pretty complex, right? I need a number of people to pull off what I'm doing typically. And so it's come with it a lot of effort and with that, a lot of challenges. And I know that those challenges have come at a cost for our family in the way that I show up, because I do come home, come downstairs at the end of the
Right.
day, oftentimes frustrated or disappointed or discouraged. I wouldn't say often, but there have been seasons that were certainly very often. I've gone through very, very challenging seasons of entrepreneurship that brought with them a certain level of depression to them, or panic attacks and things like that. Just real deep wrestlings. And that has absolutely taken a toll on our marriage. It's absolutely come at a cost. And I know you've said in the past that in some ways, us both being entrepreneurs is kind of more of a liability than it is an asset, right? It would be easier if we weren't both entrepreneurs, because there are just a lot of challenges that come with entrepreneurship that are brought into the family. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Woo.
I feel like I tried to
Okay.
set us up fair in a fair way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, gosh. So this is like I said at the top of this episode, one of the uniquenesses about our marriage is that we are both entrepreneurs, not in the same business, and two different, different styles of business. I don't know very many couples that are like that. And so I don't have a whole lot of models to look to be like, hey, how do you navigate this kind of stuff? And then we're both of course different personalities. If you're a human being and you've married another human being, I'm willing to bet that they're a lot different than you. That's probably why you were attracted to them, and that's also why you're irritated with them so many times. Um, so all of that compounds, where the way I see the world and the way I see business, I think it rubs you the wrong way a lot of times. And there's elements of it you're like, yeah, I would like that, but that's just not possible for me in my business or whatever. And then you'll throw in your jabs of like, well, it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed, if it's not challenging, it's not blah 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 blah. And so we
Please
just
comment
disagree.
below with whose side you take.
Yeah, Team Graham, Team Shay. We'll do a reality TV show.
Business is
I
inevitably challenging, or business can be effortless. Your vote will
when I'm
decide.
my most selfish, I just default to what would be easier. It would be easier if you didn't have any problems, right? Because I got my own problems. So then I could just like it feels like when I'm being my most selfish, there's not enough room for two entrepreneurs to have their own problems, and also like the benefit of both being entrepreneurs is that we have a mini mastermind together where we're
Right.
constantly like talking about things and strategizing. And that's also the worst thing about being
Mhm.
entrepreneurs in marriage is that we're constantly strategizing and talking about business. And it's like as much as I love my business, when I leave, like when I clock out, I don't want to think about business. Um, And sometimes I'm the one that brings it up because I'm frustrated and I'm like, "Ah, this is so dumb," and blah, 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 blah. And it's usually the days, go figure, when I'm like feeling good and don't want to talk about business that you're having a frustrating day and you're like, "Ah, stupid thing of business." I'm like, "Don't bring that over here. I'm having a good day. I'm at peace." And so I think it's my selfishness that doesn't like it. And so I know I have room to grow there, because this is the path that God has for us. Um, but yeah, dude, that's a cost, man, because entrepreneurs get so many benefits, but one of the cons is that you have to carry it mentally all the time. You can clock out. Like, I don't work hardly any hours in my business, but you never clock out in your mind. It's always there unless, that's a mental game. And so if you got two of us who work very little in our business but carry the weight of it 24/7, that's a con. And some people don't like that and they'd rather just clock in and out of a job. I totally understand that. You're trading pros and cons.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think there are a lot of costs that are avoidable, right? You losing time with your kids, you not, if we look at the true order of priority of things that we see outlined in scripture, relationship with God is first, relationship with your spouse is second, right? Marriage, then comes kids, then comes work. There is a lot of cost to entrepreneurship and you could keep going, like taking care of your physical body, I mean, friendships, community, like there's a lot of other priorities that we could line up. I think the cost that most entrepreneurs are experiencing is a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice that's reinforced by a culture that says this is just the way it has to be. This is just the cost of doing something impactful. This is how everyone else is doing it. You're fine. Just keep going. Eventually you can, it'll get easier, except, eventually never comes. It never gets easier, or the damage is already done. So there's a lot of costs that I think are avoidable. And then there's a lot of costs. And these are, I think, some of the costs that we've maybe experienced more of. Because I think, I'm so grateful we are like-minded in that I think we've really ruthlessly tried to avoid those costs. The
Yes.
cost to marriage, the cost to family, the cost to our physical health. Like, we're very, very good we have friendships, we have community, we're involved in church. We're in church every Sunday. Like, we have deep relationships. We're known. We have time for people. We have time for fun. We're able to travel. Like, those things we've done well. The costs we've experienced, you alluded to it, they're generally the result of sin. Like, it's just the result of when we are going about it my way, on my terms, selfishly, or with fear, with anxiety, when our identity is tied up in it, when we're at odds with each other and there's a sort of either there's envy or frustration or jealousy or comparison. Like, all of that is really rooted in a sinful approach to things, not God's design for entrepreneurship. And so I think that's where we can land with the hope, is that uh, God offers in scripture. I referenced that, I think it was Proverbs 10:22, that he gives blessings and blessings that maketh rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. That entrepreneurship can be a blessing that does not have baked into it a sort of toxicity that is going to corrode the other gifts in your life. And then at the same time, we're going to have to constantly kind of fight sin and fleshly tendencies and worldly tendencies to do it God's way, both functionally, physically, but also to have our heart and mind transformed by God's opinion and approach to entrepreneurship, his approach to outcomes, his approach to what is meaningful and purposeful. And we're going to have to constantly have our minds and hearts transformed through the word of God, through interaction with the Holy Spirit, so that we can minimize those internal costs that you and I have experienced a lot of. And so I think that's, where there's work for you and I that we're still doing. Right? There's work that you and I are still doing. But the beautiful hope is that God offers a better way to build. He offers a better way to do all of this, one that involves peace, one that involves rest, one that involves contentment, right? Ambition and contentment can somehow both be true, can both be present. We can be deeply ambitious and also deeply at peace and content. I think those are the things that you and I continue to just fight for. on our entrepreneurial journey. And that's the hope that I think that we have, is that entrepreneurship can have within it, it can be marked by hope and peace and joy. And that's what you and I think, are really still after. It's like, Lord, show us your way so that our entrepreneurial can be marked with hope and peace and joy. Anything else you want to
100%.
add before we
Well, I mean, I just
close out?
just to land there, being an entrepreneur is not the problem. Maybe the way you're running business can be a problem, and that you can restructure your business, and that's the freedom that I think we alluded to earlier, is that you're the boss. There's no one way to run business, but most people don't challenge assumptions. So you can redefine your design your business, excuse me. But at the end of the day, you are the greatest asset of your business and the greatest liability to your business. It's you. It's who you are as a person. It's me. It's who I am as a person. And so when I think about like Romans 12, um, verse 2, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world. Please don't copy the behavior and customs of all the entrepreneurs in this world. But instead, let God transform you into a new person. So that's the whole point. You have to become a new person. How? By changing the way you think. So it all comes down to your thoughts, and your God will change the way you think, change you into a new person. And so when he does that, you can see more fruit, like you alluded to, of the Spirit, Galatians 5, love, joy, peace, patience, self-control, all those things in your business, the way you show up. This is like, our heart is like, I'm chasing after this hard. Like, God, how can I become the person that can do the thing and be completely at rest and at peace at the same time? And that's the growth edge that I have, that I'm working towards. I know you're working towards it too. And I write about this in The Effortless Business. At the end of the day, is like the very end of the book, we talk, the only truly way to have an effortless business is to realize it's not yours.
Yeah.
It's God's. And he's in charge of making it happen. So rest in him. That's the whole Matthew 11, is like, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden. I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, because my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Business should feel easy and light, because that's, if you're doing it Jesus's way, it's much easier and lighter. The hard thing that's driving you crazy might not be the thing he called you to, or might not be the way he called you to it. And so that's where it's us, where it's user error. We're the ones that ruin it usually. But we're also the ones, I think, that if we let God transform us, it's not just a spiritual work. It will show up in your business, and it'll show up in your relationships, and everyone benefits.
Yeah. So good. Well, I'm proud of you as an entrepreneur and your entrepreneurial journey. It's a joy, maybe not always, but often a joy to be entrepreneurs, side by side entrepreneurs.
And I'm proud of you. I love this show. I love your podcast. I love the work you're doing at Illume. Like, this is so needed, because you're bringing people the best business strategy on the planet, and it is doing things God's way. So you're doing great work. I'm super proud of you, babe.
Well, thanks, babe. All right. If you guys didn't catch episode 1 on Better Way to Build, I kind of begin this conversation there, so you can go back and check it. You can follow Graham, check him out on the Graham Cochrane Show. And then otherwise, just thanks for being a part of this. Let us know if something within this resonated. Reach out through DMs, leave a review. We'll have both of these will be on our respective YouTube channels. Let us know how this is resonating and what God's doing in your life in this area. And otherwise, we'll see you on the next episode.